Mr. Chong Kee Hiong.
Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir, I rise in support of the motion of thanks to the President. I share the aspirations and concerns the President had expressed in her speech, and I would like to take this opportunity to speak on some of them, namely the 3 M's: minimizing the negative impact of inequality, mastering the courage to implement bold changes, and mastering technological advances. I am heartened that our government is committed to minimizing the negative impact of inequality. Singapore is a capitalist economy and a meritocracy. In this environment, those who are talented, able, and hardworking will be rewarded. But in nature, talents and abilities are not equally distributed. So what about those who are not as talented or skilled? Hard work alone will only take you so far. We should also not forget that health or personal conditions and circumstances may limit some people's performance at work. Whilst we should continue to encourage reward systems based on outputs and performance, as this is accepted to be fair and justifiable, let us not overlook the problems of the imperfect market. Distorted remunerations of varying magnitudes exist, either paying too much or too little for contributions and work done. To mitigate the impact of consequent inequality, we must provide more assistance to those in need, especially for basic necessities, public housing, healthcare, and education. Funds for the needy have to be sourced mainly from our tax revenues, with additional aid from voluntary donations. Hence, we need the endorsement and support from Singaporeans for a tax system which facilitates more transfers from those who are prosperous to those who are less fortunate. This way, even the poor in our community can afford a reasonable standard of living. We also face stratification and slowing social mobility. Our population is now more stratified across age groups and income and wealth. Historically, Singapore has been fairly successful in promoting social mobility. The story of our very own president is a good example, and we all personally know similar cases like hers, where within 1 or 2 generations, families' circumstances are improved substantially. But as our society advances, social mobility slows, and the gaps between different income groups gradually widen as accumulated advantages and wealth gets passed on from one generation to the next. As a community, we should start a candid discussion about the strategies to overcome this problem before it becomes too entrenched and difficult to resolve. We may need to modify our policies or social institutions. We should never accept the lack of social mobility as inevitable. Education plays an important role in enabling social mobility. We need to ensure that access to education is not just on a superficial level. We have the Kids Start program to ensure that children 6 and below from vulnerable families have a good start in life through access to health, learning, and developmental support. To further ensure that the children who have been identified and benefited from the Kids Start program continue to progress well, there should be similar support for those who need it to do well in primary and secondary school as well. Though MOE is committed to make every school a good school, each will still have different access to resources and therefore indirectly limit the academic and non-academic options available to their students. How do we discover a talented tennis player from a school that does not have a tennis court or offer the sport as a CCA? Are we able to nurture that child who could potentially be a chess grandmaster if he or she is in a school that does not have a chess club? There are those who can afford to send their children for private lessons outside of the school. But for those who cannot, how do we level the playing field in both academic and non-academic areas? Aside from education, policies and government schemes will have different impacts on every individual and family, as each face a unique set of challenges. In other words, there will always be groups that fall through the cracks, and we need to look out for them. Hence, I'm glad that the government acknowledges such differences and accepts appeals, taking into account mitigating circumstances and changes in family situations. It is important that all our ministries and agencies be prepared to make exceptions, but I must stress, within limits, to assist those caught at the edges, exercising compassion in the implementation of our policies is helpful in reducing the impact of income inequality in our society. Though the issue of income inequality is not unique to Singapore, there is no one-size-fits-all solution that we can copy from others. The government needs to continue to pay close attention to the ground, as the price to pay as a result is not restricted to economic consequences, but more importantly, could create a tear in our social fabric. Another notable point the President made was about mastering the courage to implement bold changes and not limiting ourselves to take incremental steps. We are not advocating recklessness, but calculated moves into uncharted territories. If we don't take calculated risks, we risk becoming irrelevant anyway, with dire consequences. What is most important is that we must be prepared for trade-offs and failures, and have the courage and tenacity to pick ourselves up and try again. Some changes would be unpopular, and our leaders must be able to carry them. Hence, firstly, they have to win the hearts and minds of the people, so that Singaporeans will be willing to take a leap of faith together with them. Geopolitics have changed much, and so have technologies. Have we made the necessary changes fast enough? Take the field of education. We need to constantly review the relevance of what we teach and how we assess our young. Perhaps we need to revamp our O and A levels and the subjects taught. Basic and general knowledge in all subjects lay a useful foundation. But do we need so many students studying calculus or chemical interactions in such depth? With the pivot to Asia, shouldn't our students be exposed to great Asian classics, such as the Dream of the Red Chamber, the Romance of the Three Kingdoms, and Ramayana, in addition to works from Shakespeare? When we implement changes, especially bold ones, we must ensure that both top-down and bottom-up approaches work hand in hand. This is because while focusing on visions in top-down policies, there may be gaps in the scheme. While bottom-up initiatives may miss the big picture, even as gaps are filled. I hope our relevant departments will bear this in mind for our industry transformation maps, the ITMs. In addition, bold changes require process re-engineering. To get rid of the old ways of doing things, we have to reduce unnecessary processes to free up time and space for thinking, creativity, and problem solving. Increased efficiency and higher productivity are mutually reinforcing. We have witnessed how technology has disrupted some commercial activities are organized and executed. A good example would be how quickly e-commerce has changed the dynamics of traditional retail. Similarly, it's timely to rethink how our administrative services can be organized in bold new ways, instead of just trying to incrementally improve how the existing ministries operate. This will help us to be ahead of the curve, to implement change, rather than to deal with change. My final point is about technological advances, which are radically changing the way we live, work, and interact with one another. We must master these technologies and harness their power to seize the economic opportunities they present. Some residents have expressed their concerns over our drive to become a smart nation. They are worried about new complexities and being left behind. They feel that our government may be pushing this initiative too quickly. I empathize with them, but I really don't think we can afford to slow down. We must help them to adapt and catch up to schemes such as Skills Future, but we must get on the tech train. We have an aging population, but our seniors are better educated than their predecessors. I believe that where there is a will, there is a way. We must understand that we don't really have a choice, as we would rather be ahead of the race and not just be in the race along the technology runway. AI, or artificial intelligence, is currently creating a lot of buzz and a lot of worries too. Artificial intelligence systems lead to gains in productivity, but threaten jobs in low-paid and low-skilled production industries and jobs that are administrative, clerical, and procedural in nature. Most of the productivity gains resulting from the use of AI, robotics, and IT will accrue to those who own the patents, the machines, and the capital. Hence, whilst we have to nurture more entrepreneurs and technology creators and innovators to reap the benefits and rewards of this technological development, we also need to find ways to more equitably distribute these benefits and rewards so as not to further widen the income gap. While we nurture our own talents and build our capabilities, we also need to be a player in the global transfer of expertise and technical know-how to boost local competencies, which in turn strengthen the Singapore core. We want to continue to draw investments which create good jobs for Singaporeans, including high-tech companies such as those in the field of artificial intelligence, cloud computing, and robotics. However, we are also experiencing an environment of increasing trade protectionism amongst nations. How can Singapore deal with this current reality and find a path to thrive? The complexion of global trade, economy, and foreign relations is changing at a pace that seems much faster than before. Our next generation of leaders will have to be clear in their strategies and nimble in their actions to be able to execute policies that bring Singaporeans together and move Singapore ahead. Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir, great changes are afoot and the waves will be strong. I support the President's call to our new generation to unite and work together to keep Singapore an exceptional country. Thank you.
Leader of the House.
Speaker, may I see your consent to move that the debate be now adjourned?
I give my consent.
Speaker, I beg to move that the debate be now adjourned.
The question is that the debate be now adjourned. As many as are of that opinion, say aye. Aye. To the contrary, say no. I think the ayes have it. The ayes have it. Ms. Cheryl Chan, resumption of debate what day?
Tomorrow, sir.
So be it. Leader of the House.
Mr. Deputy Speaker, I beg to move that Parliament do now adjourn.
The question is that Parliament do now adjourn. As many as are of that opinion, say aye. Aye. To the contrary, say no. I think the ayes have it. The ayes have it. Order. Order.